How does it feel to be so feared?
I don't look at it as fear, I look at it as respect. I respect you, you respect me. If you can't respect me, I'm gonna teach you how to respect me.
Suge Knight, a name that, just by being uttered, would send people into a panic in the 90s.
They was not scared of Suge Knight. They were terrified of Suge Knight.
A man who embodies the phrase villain aura. His mere presence inspired fear and intimidation.
Suge Knight was a cold-blooded gangster.
Hey, Suge Knight, how you doing? Don't kill me. All right,
The controversial music industry mogul was known by many as the Devil in the Red Suit, not only for being a member of the Bloods gang, but also for extorting artists, businessmen, and getting everything he wanted through violence, brutality, and threats. His tactics were among the most wicked. From beating up enemies, threatening family members, and hanging people from balconies, to making grown men wet their pants and drink their own urine.
He got beaten up and literally drank about 20 shots of piss.
Suge took me onto the balcony and spoke to me personally.
On the balcony?
On the balcony.
You're scared?
I had to wear a diaper that day.
Over the years, Suge committed so many cruel acts that today he is serving a 28-year prison sentence. But after all, why was Suge Knight so violent? Who were all his victims? And how did he become the most feared man in hip-hop? To understand that, we need to look at this villain's origins. Marion Hill Knight Jr. was born on April 19, 1965 in Compton, one of the most dangerous cities in California. Violence, drugs, and gang shootouts were routine on the streets of his neighborhood. The first murder he witnessed with his own eyes was when he was 5 years old. One day, Marion saw a dead man on the streets of Compton, searched his pockets, and found $5,000, an amount he shared with his mother. His parents used to call him Sugar Bear, a sweet little bear, a loving childhood nickname. But life on the streets quickly eroded all that childhood sweetness. In his teenage years, he studied at Linwood Middle School, where he became a true football star. On the field, Marion realized how much he enjoyed knocking down his opponents and seeing his enemies sprawled on the ground.
I love to play the game. I used to make bets with myself about how many guys I was going to hurt. I did enjoy the contact. I did enjoy hitting.
In 1985, Marion earned a scholarship to the University of Nevada and even played professionally for the Los Angeles Rams in 1987 at the age of 22. That's when Marion dropped the bear part from his nickname, shortened Sugar to Suge, and kept his birth surname, becoming Suge N. But despite being very good as a player, Suge started accumulating several penalties for violence. His explosive temper and problems off the field complicated his academic life, and he ended up leaving college. Also in 1987, Suge Knight was arrested for the first time for domestic violence after pulling the hair of his then-girlfriend Charita Golden and cutting off her ponytail during a fight out of jealousy.
He didn't want others to like me. And he thought that since he liked my hair, that if it was gone, nobody else would like me either.
On Halloween of '87, Suge Knight was arrested again for attempted murder. He and an accomplice tried to steal a car in Las Vegas, and when the victim fought back, Suge pulled out a gun and fired 3 times at the man, who fortunately survived. At the trial, Suge pleaded guilty and was released from prison, but received 2 years of probation. In the late 80s, Suge Knight started working as a bodyguard for important people in the music world, eventually becoming the personal security guard for Bobby Brown, the singer of the hit Don't Be Cruel. From then on, Suge took on many roles, from security guard and event promoter to enforcer, often using intimidation and violence to collect debts and settle scores. But what Suge Knight wanted most was to own his own business. He dreamed of becoming a powerful kingpin. In 1989, Suge started a company called Nightlife, which managed major artists at the time, like Jodeci, Mary J. Blige, and the D.O.C. The latter was a member of the famous rap group NWA and introduced Suge Knight to the other members, DJ Yella, MC Ren, Ice Cube, Eazy-E, and Dr. Dre. Also in 1990, Suge Knight hired the songwriter Mario "Chocolate" Johnson. According to Suge Knight, Chocolate wrote part of the song Ice Ice Baby for an artist who wasn't very famous at the time, Vanilla Ice. Then, in 1991, the song exploded on the charts across the whole country, reaching #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and also becoming a hit worldwide, turning Vanilla Ice into a true global star.
My record was selling over 1 million copies a week. Fastest selling record in history, double platinum, and it kept going. I was like, my God.
But after the huge success, Chocolate claimed that he didn't receive any songwriting credits or a single cent for the song. That's when Suge Knight stepped in to demand his share. While Vanilla Ice was staying at the Bell Lady Hotel in Beverly Hills, Suge Knight went there with several henchmen, scared off Vanilla Ice's security, and entered his room. And what happened next, man, was like a scene from a thriller movie.
Suge brought me to the balcony and spoke to me privately. On the balcony? On the balcony, high above, like 15 floors. He had me look over the edge, showed me how high I was up there. You scared? I needed to wear a diaper on that day.
That's the legend that Suge Knight held him by the legs and hung him upside down off the balcony, making him pee himself so much that he ended up drinking his own urine. Vanilla Ice has always denied that part of the story, but what he did confirm was that Suge Knight forced him to sign the contract, which included Mario "Chocolate" Johnson as one of the writers of the song Ice Baby. Also in 1991, Suge Knight met with the DOC and Dr. Dre, and together, they founded the legendary label Death Row Records. Man, only those who understand rap know how important this label was for the history of hip-hop. Founding a record label was something that required a huge financial investment, which not even Suge Knight had at the time. For that, he relied on the funding of one of the most powerful and dangerous drug dealers in California, Harry O., who invested a whopping $1.5 million in the creation of Death Row Records. But Suge Knight still hadn't solved all his problems. After being dissatisfied with the management of NWA, Dr. Dre had left the group to continue as an artist at Suge Knight's new record label. But Eazy-E, the leader of NWA, refused to sign the contract that would release Dr. Dre from his old record label. That way, even if Dr. Dre made hit songs for Death Row, Suge Knight wouldn't earn a single cent, because all of Dre's rights were still tied to Ruthless Records, NWA's label. Faced with Eazy-E's refusal, Suge Knight did what he knew best. He went to the Ruthless Records office in Los Angeles, along with several of his henchmen and various members of the Bloods, a gang Suge Knight had just recently joined. Armed with baseball bats and lead pipes, they intimidated Eazy-E's security guards. Suge approached the rapper and then showed him his mother's address, making it clear that he knew where she lived. There are rumors that Suge Knight beat up Eazy-E that night, but this was never confirmed. What is known is that Eazy-E, under coercion, signed the contract releasing Dr. Dre from Ruthless Records, and that's when all the conflict between them intensified. When Death Row was just starting out, Dr. Dre invited two aspiring rapper brothers, Lin Wood and George Stanley, to record their first song in the studio. The two were about to make their dream come true, until Suge Knight decided to show up there. Suge saw Lin Wood making a phone call and told him to hang up immediately. Suge was waiting for an important call from Harry O., that drug dealer who financed Death Row. Probably unaware and not knowing who Suge Knight was, Lin Wood ignored him and replied by saying,
"Don't get me involved in that gang shit."
A response that Lin would deeply regret. Suge pulled out a gun and fired 2 shots at the wall. One of the shots grazed right past him. Then, Suge ordered Lin Wood and his brother George to kneel down and strip to their underwear, then brutally beat them almost to death with punches, kicks, and several blows with the butt of the gun. The brothers were left bloodied and seriously injured. Suge Knight took both of their ID cards to remember their information and threatened them in case they went to the police. For Suge Knight, this was just another ordinary day at his office. There was something called the Red Room, where Suge Knight settled his disputes, and where he kept an aquarium full of hungry piranhas. Once, during an interview, he got offended by a question about his temper and dunked the reporter's head in the water. asking,
"How about if my fish ate your face?"
Not even women escaped the beatings.
Suge grabbed me by my feet, and Kim Hassan came around and started stomping me in my face.
But Suge Knight's empire wasn't built on violence alone. His business vision and hunger for success quickly made Death Row Records the most successful rap label on the entire West Coast. In 1992, they released Dr. Dre's first solo album, The Chronic, which became one of the best-selling and most important rap records in history. One of the tracks, called Dre Day, is a direct attack by Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre against Eazy-E and the members of NWA. In the music video, they make fun of Eazy-E, portraying him as a homeless man on the streets of Los Angeles. The following year, Eazy-E released a response track, Real Motherfucking Jizz, which we've already broken down here on the channel. For the music video, Eazy-E hired the actor A.J. Johnson, the same actor who played him as a homeless man in Dr. Dre's video. Eazy-E's idea was to simulate the lynching of the fake Eazy-E to show that he was superior. However, Suge Knight didn't like the idea at all, and on the day A.J. Johnson went to film his scene, he was visited by the Mogul, who convinced him to quit the shoot.
So I had to go back tomorrow to finish it, but Suge called me into the office. You know what I mean? You can't do it. I'm like, what do you mean? I can't. He already paid me. Suge pulled out a gun. I said, you can't do it. I won't do it.
At the end of '93, it was time for another big release from Death Row Records, Snoop Dogg's debut album, the classic, Doggy Style. The album was also a huge success, catapulting Snoop Dogg to stardom and bringing Suge Knight much more power and money.
The very first year generated $150 million.
In one of the songs from the album, called Murder Was the Case, which we've already broken down here, Snoop Dogg creates a fictional story where he raps about being accused of murder. In a chilling twist of fate, fiction became reality. Shortly after releasing the song, Snoop Dogg was indicted for the murder of a man named Philip Waldemarian. But during the trial, Suge Knight did everything he could to protect his most profitable artists. From bribing police officers and prosecutors to threatening witnesses, not even Judge Paul Flynn, who was presiding over Snoop Dogg's case, managed to escape the threats, something the judge himself has mentioned in an interview.
The sheriff called me and said, Judge, we've got a little problem. We have heard through a snitch that Suge Knight or some of his people are going to take you out and the DA if the verdict comes in guilty.
Snoop Dogg was acquitted of all charges. In March 1995, Eazy-E died of AIDS. The news shocked a lot of people who had no idea the rapper was sick. But what many found strange was the interview that Suge Knight gave a few years later.
Somebody has to do something about it. See, technology is so advanced, right? If you shoot somebody, you go to jail forever. So the kids, you don't want to go to jail forever, right? Right. So they got this thing out that people sell them all the time. They got this stuff. They get blood from somebody with AIDS, and it shoots you with it.
So that seems bad.
So it's a slow death. You know, like Eazy-E.
Oh, no.
Okay.
This led to a series of speculations that Suge Knight had injected the HIV virus into Eazy-E, maybe during that fight in 1991. That's why he would have mentioned the slow death. Eazy-E's own son, Eric Wright Jr., has already said he believes in this theory, and Jerry Heller, Eazy-E's former manager, does too. At the height of the beef between them, Eazy-E told Jerry that he wanted to kill Suge Knight before something happened to him, and Jerry convinced him not to do it.
I gotta kill this motherfucker Suge Knight.
Later, Jerry said in interviews that he regretted it and that he should have let Eazy-E kill Suge Knight.
And you know something? I should have let him kill him. Yeah, you know, I would have done the world a favor.
On August 3, 1995, Suge Knight started the famous war between East Coast and West Coast rappers in the United States after attacking P. Diddy during the Source Awards.
Anyone out there want to be an artist and want to stay a star, don't want to have to worry about the executive producer trying to be all in the videos, all on the record, dancing, come to Death Row.
The act created a strong division between rappers on both sides of the country, which in turn caused a chain of events that eventually culminated in the deaths of Tupac and Notorious B.I.G. Because of this, and for many other reasons that I'll talk about later, many people attribute the responsibility for the deaths of both rappers to Suge Knight. One of those people is Eminem himself, who has already talked about this in the song Smack You.
I'm holding Suge responsible for the deaths of the two greatest rappers to ever grace the face of this planet.
I hold Suge responsible for the deaths of the two greatest rappers ever. I've already analyzed this song for channel members. The link's in the description. On August 25, 1995, right after arguing with Suge Knight over business matters, Happy Walters, manager of the group Cypress Hill, mysteriously disappeared while withdrawing money from an ATM, leaving only his wallet at the scene. Walters was found 3 days later, stumbling around the Long Beach area in Los Angeles, covered in burns believed to have been made with a cigar. His head was shaved. When Walters recovered enough to be questioned by the police, he refused to say who his kidnappers were. Shortly after, Walters fired several artists from his record label, which many people interpret as him having gotten the message. On September 16, 1995, at the prison, Suge Knight visited Tupac. The rapper was arrested earlier that year, as discussed in the Deciphering the Rush Ruxodia video. But the fact is that Tupac was abandoned and was at risk of seeing his career end in prison. Besides that, he believed that his former friend Big was involved in the chain of events that led him there. Suge Knight saw the opportunity to take advantage of all Tupac's anger and talent and offered to pay his $1.4 million bail in exchange for the rapper signing with his label, Death Row Records. Tupac accepted without thinking twice. Although at the beginning of his career, Tupac wasn't so aggressive and made more songs with political and social awareness. After signing with Suge, Tupac dove headfirst into a gangster mentality, becoming much more violent and paranoid, focusing on songs that detailed plans to kill his rivals and heading toward his inevitable self-destruction. 2 weeks later, a security guard named Jake Robles, a close friend of Suge Knight, was killed during a party after fighting with members of P. Diddy's security team. Suge Knight blamed Diddy for his friend's death and, from then on, swore to kill him. On December 15, 1995, during a death row party, Suge Knight discovered that Mark Anthony Bell, one of Diddy's close friends, was at his party. Suge found Mark, took him to a secluded room along with his security guards, locked the door, and started demanding the addresses of P. Diddy and his mother. When Mark refused to talk, he was brutally beaten and forced to drink urine in a champagne glass.
He got beaten up and drank about 20 shots of piss. Literally.
On September 7, 1996, Tupac was shot 4 times while sitting in the passenger seat of a car driven by Suge Knight. There are rumors that Suge helped orchestrate Tupac's death, as Tupac was unhappy with Suge Knight's management and had been threatening to leave Death Row to start his own record label. A few months later, on March 9, 1997, Notorious Big died after also being shot 4 times. Big was the most profitable artist at Bad Boy Records, P. Diddy's record label. Greg Kading, a former Los Angeles police detective and expert on the deaths of Tupac and Big, believes that Suge Knight paid a shooter named Poochie to kill Big, intending to eliminate the competition.
Suge says, listen, I want Biggie killed. I want you to go ahead and get a hold of my boy Poochie from the neighborhood. He knows Poochie's a known shooter.
Between 1997 and 2014, Suge Knight was arrested several times for various reasons, including drug possession, assault, and domestic violence. On August 24, 2014, Suge Knight was shot 6 times during a party hosted by Chris Brown. Despite his injuries, Suge walked out of the nightclub and got into the ambulance himself. The reason and person behind the shooting are still unknown. The police questioned Suge Knight, but just as he expected his victims to behave, he refused to cooperate with the police. On September 5, 2014, Suge Knight was arrested after assaulting a photographer and stealing her camera. Leslie Bradham was filming celebrities outside the Film On studio in Beverly Hills. Suge Knight was leaving the place with his young son and got irritated, thinking that Leslie was taking pictures of the boy.
I'm not taking a picture. I'm not taking a picture. I'm not taking.
I gotta tell you what, you got a picture, I'll beat your motherfucking ass. Hold on.
Dude, I'm not taking a picture. I wasn't taking a picture of him.
Who do you think you're talking to?
Leslie said she was unconscious for a while, suffered a concussion, a dislocated finger, and injuries to her neck, back, and head. Suge spent a week in jail and was released on bail. But the final blow to Suge Knight's freedom would come the following year. On January 29, 2015, Suge Knight ran over 2 people and killed one of them in a parking lot. At the time, director F. Gary Gray was producing a movie about NWA called Straight Outta Compton. Suge Knight was not consulted about his scenes and did not like being portrayed as a violent person in the movie. From then on, Suge started threatening the director over the phone. When Gray ignored him, Suge began sending threatening text messages. "I'll see you in person." You have kids just like I do, so let's play hardball, ending the message with profanity and insults. Amid the tension, Suge learned a commercial for the movie would be filmed at a local restaurant. He drove over there, and although he didn't find the director, he did find one of the actors from the movie, Clay Bone. Since Bone was also the script consultant, Suge believed he could convince him to change the script to portray him in a different way. When Bone refused, Suge Knight got into his pickup truck and ran him over, twice. Although Bone survived, Terry Carter, a friend who was with Bone, tried to calm the situation and ended up being run over as well. Terry couldn't survive his injuries and passed away. On September 21, 2012, Suge Knight was sentenced to a total of 28 years in prison for the murder of Terry Carter and several other crimes. With a history like that, man, it's easy to understand why Suge Knight was so feared by everyone. Well, not everyone, right? There is a rapper who was never afraid of the Mogul, and his name is Eminem. In 2003, Eminem made a really hard-hitting song attacking Suge Knight and accusing him of Tupac's and Big's deaths, as well as several other horrible crimes. A very brave act, but one that almost cost Eminem his life. I've already explained this story in the VIP section of the channel. To watch, just click on the video that will appear here on the side, and become a member of Decipher Hits. I'll be waiting for you there. Dr. Dre stopped him from doing something crazy, and the song remained secret for decades. But in 2025, it ended up leaking on the internet. Today, we're going to analyze line by line the song Smack You, and you'll understand why this is the most brutal and dangerous diss track of Eminem's career.